Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Last night we completed Surah Al-Kahf and Surah Maryam. I'd like to just focus on a few verses from Surah Al-Kahf and relate them to current events that we see around us in this day and age. The story is towards the latter stages of Surah Al-Kahf, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Musa alayhi salatu wasalam meeting somebody called Khadir or Khidr, depending on how you pronounce it. And this story is also mentioned in detail in Sahih al-Bukhari. So the story goes that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was asked, Man alamun nas, who is the most knowledgeable person? So based upon what he knew, that because he's the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed him with more knowledge than anybody else. So he replied, Ana, I am the most knowledgeable person. And he was not lying, and it was not to brag or anything. It was based upon his own knowledge. He assumed that that was to be the case. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wanted to show Musa alayhi salatu wasalam something, and He told him to go to visit a person far away at, according to Surah Al-Kahf, Majma' al-Bahrain, where the two oceans meet. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam set out to find this person and to benefit from him. So when they met, there's a long story about how Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Yusha, his servant, set out on the journey, and then they lost the fish, and the fish became alive, and a lot of things happened prior to them meeting Khadir. When they met Khadir, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam requested him that I want to spend time with you. So the answer was, لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. You're not going to be able to have sabr with me. You're not going to be patient with me. You're not going to be able to understand everything that's going on with me. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam said, I will be patient. I will try my best. So just take me as a student. So Khadir accepted, and they set off on the journey. So who was Khadir? First of all, we'll talk about that. Some scholars say that he was a prophet. Some scholars say that no, he was just a pious man, and so on. So there's a difference of opinion as to who this person actually was. But in any case, he was a very pious man who was close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they set off on this journey, and the first step of the journey was that they were given a ride on a boat by some sailors. So حتى إذا ركب في السفينة خرقها. So what did Khadir start to do? When they set off on this journey, he started to rip up the boat. He started to damage and destroy the boat. So obviously, if you can imagine, somebody picks us up in a car, and it's a nice car, the latest model, Mercedes-Benz or whatever, and we are sitting in the back seat, and we take a knife out and we start to destroy the seats. The beautiful new leather seats, we destroy them. So any person who's sitting with us is going to say, what are you doing? So obviously Musa alayhi salatu wasalam could not stay quiet, and he said, what is this? So then Khadir said, didn't I tell you, you are not going to have sabr with me? You're not going to be patient? So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam excused himself and said, okay, just give me another chance. And so they set forward and moved on. On the journey, they met up with this small boy, and what did Khadir do? Khadir took this small boy and strangled him to death. Kharaqaha. So he basically killed this boy. So Musa alayhi salam, again, as any normal human being would, he could not stop himself and said, لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. You have done something unimaginable. Why did you kill this innocent child? So Khadir again told him, قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. Didn't I tell you that you're not going to be able to have patience with me? So he excused himself again and said one more time, إِن سَأَلْتُكَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ بَعْدَهَا فَلَا تُصَاحِبْنِي. If I ask you anything more after this, then don't accompany me anymore. I've run out of excuses. So they ventured forth and they went into a village, and they were hungry and thirsty, and they asked the people of the village for food and drink and shelter. So فَأَبَوْا أَن يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا. The dwellers of that village, they refused to treat them as guests. They refused to host them. So as they were leaving the village, there was a wall that was falling over. So what did Khadir do? He repaired the wall. He fixed it and made it stand up again. So Musa alayhi salam, not really a complaint, but a suggestion. He said, you fixed this wall, you could have at least asked the people of the village for some compensation. So Khadir said, okay, this is the end of the road between us, Musa, and I'm going to tell you exactly the reasons that I did what I did. Firstly, the boat. Why did I destroy the boat? I destroyed the boat because there was a king who was a pirate, and he was capturing any nice new boat that he saw. He was taking it into captivity. He was kidnapping these boats, and basically the reason that I destroyed that boat was, or damaged the boat was, for that pirate to see that this boat is not worth kidnapping. So that's the reason that I damaged the boat, because I didn't want that the sailors to be victims of that pirate. So this was the first thing. The second thing, why did I kill that child? I killed the child because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed me that this child, if he grows up, he's going to be rebellious against the parents. And because the parents are very pious, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want them to go through with that kind of hardship and difficulty. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to kill him, and Allah will replace that child with another child who will be pious and will be obedient to those parents. So this was the second step. The third step, why did I straighten up the wall when we were leaving the village? So the answer was that underneath this wall there was a treasure that belonged to غُلَامَيْنِ يَتِيمَيْنِ, two orphan children. And these orphan children, basically, their parents were pious, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want that treasure to be divulged to the public before these young children, these orphans, grew up and they could take the treasure for themselves. So if that wall had fallen, then that treasure would have become exposed and people would have stolen it. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to straighten the wall. And these were the reasons, Musa alayhi salam, that you could not have patience with me. Otherwise, if you had had patience, then you could have learned a lot more things. So what's the biggest lesson we learn from this? Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he, according to his own understanding, he thought to himself that he is the most knowledgeable person, and he was correct in his understanding. But his branch of knowledge was different to the knowledge of Khadir, which was a specialized knowledge, more in the spiritual realm, and things to do with understanding what's going to happen in the future, with a talent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given only to Khadir. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, his knowledge was from one aspect, and Khadir's knowledge was from a different aspect. So we as human beings, we come with all different backgrounds and different aspects of knowledge. Some of us are doctors, some of us are psychiatrists, some are heart specialists, some are pulmonary specialists, some are infectious disease specialists, and others from amongst us are not doctors, we're not physicians, but we may be computer programmers, we may be IT specialists, database analysts, we may be in the financial industry. So all of us have specialized fields, and some of us are in the religious field. So the point that one of the biggest points we learn from this story is that each one of us should understand that I am specialized in my own field. I need to stay in my own lane, as the saying goes. And I cannot, as a, for example, computer programmer, I cannot give a medical opinion on an illness. Okay, I cannot give opinion on, for example, the COVID-19 virus. Okay, as a businessman, for example, I cannot suggest to people what the best form of treatment is for the virus. Otherwise, I might tell people to inject themselves with disinfectant. All right, because I don't have the faintest knowledge about the treatment of viruses, because that's not my field. Similarly, what happened at the beginning of this whole crisis was the differences of opinion that were being formulated between religious people, meaning religious leadership, the scholars of religion, and non-scholars. Okay, so the non-scholars, they started giving religious opinions, and the scholars, they gave their religious opinions, but they were not formulated taking the medical experts' advice. So basically what we need to do in these kinds of situations, the religious people should, understanding their own limitations when it comes to the medical field, they should take the advice of the physicians, the doctors, the specialists, and then after that base their religious opinion upon the advice given to them by those physicians. Okay, and also the physicians and non-religious scholars should not be stepping forward and giving fatwa and religious opinions. Leave those religious opinions to the scholars whose field it is to give religious opinion. Okay, so and unfortunately this happens more often than not, that when it comes to religious rulings, everyone thinks that I know what there is to be known about religion, and I am in a good position to give a religious opinion. So this is a story that we can kind of seek relevance from in this day and age, that what happened to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is actually something that happens to us all the time. So when it comes to these kinds of things, we should try to understand our own limitations, and when it comes to different branches of knowledge, different aspects of knowledge, we should let the experts of that knowledge advise us, and we should be willing to take their opinion and not assume that we know more than them. So this is the biggest lesson we learn from this story of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Khadir. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand and practice what has been said and heard.